So it's been about a week since the launch of the PSVR 2, and I have to say I've been having a great time playing through the 40 or so launch titles. And I feel like now I'm in a good position to be able to give you my top 10 recommended PSVR 2 games available right now. This is a pretty diverse list of content, so there's definitely going to be something here for everyone to enjoy. So let's get right into it, starting with Resident Evil Village. So last week, Resident Evil Village got a free PSVR 2 upgrade, so you can finally get up close and personal with Lady Dimitrescu in glorious virtual reality. Thanks to the PSVR 2's OLED panels, the game looks stunning in VR, and you'll regularly find yourself stopping to take in all the beautiful and disgusting details. The combat and weapon handling feel on point, and it's just so satisfying dispatching enemies with that pump-action shotgun. However, there are two reasons why this game is at the bottom of my list. Firstly, if you've already played the game, your save data cannot be carried over to the VR version, and you'll have to start from the very beginning regardless of your progress. And secondly, this is probably the most intense game out of the whole PSVR 2 launch lineup. There's so many moments throughout the game during scripted sequences where Ethan is just thrown around like a ragdoll, and experiencing this in VR can be really nauseating. You'll notice that I've added comfort ratings to each game on this list so you can figure out what content is best for you. But if you're still curious to see what Resident Evil Village is like in VR, then there's a free PSVR 2 demo available on the PlayStation Store. Moving on, if you're looking for something a bit more wholesome, you can't go far wrong with Moss Books 1 and 2. Moss is a third-person puzzle platformer where you take the role of an overseer, guiding this adorable little mouse called Quill through a heartwarming adventure. While you'll be directly controlling little Quill's movements, you'll also be interacting with objects in the environment as the overseer to help her along her journey. With platforming, exploration, puzzles and combat, there's plenty here to keep you busy, with both games combined providing around 9 to 10 hours worth of gameplay. The detailed and varied environments, along with the absolutely superb animation of little Quill, make this a wonderful VR experience. Both of these titles are also super comfortable to play, so if you're new to VR, these are great introductory games as they're best played seated and there's no artificial movement. Next up is Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition. In this game, you take the role of a nameless droid mechanic who's been intercepted by the Gawavian Death Gang. They're after some precious cargo you unknowingly have on board your ship. After crash landing on the planet of Batuu, you'll embark on a series of missions to recover the cargo, where you'll encounter iconic characters from the Star Wars universe. This game is a shooter at heart, so expect to be blasting your way through waves of enemies using blasters, remote droids, thermal detonators, and shotguns. As this package includes the Last Call DLC, alongside the main questline, you'll also have the opportunity to go undercover as a stormtrooper, wield a lightsaber, use force powers, and even take full control of a deadly bounty hunter droid similar to the one featured in The Mandalorian. This complete package provides around 8 to 10 hours worth of content in total. The game takes full advantage of the PSVR 2's unique haptics, along with a complete graphical overhaul, so I would say this is without doubt the definitive version of the game. But if you have played it already, I wouldn't say it's enough to revisit Batuu for a second time. However, those Star Wars fans new to Galaxy's Edge will no doubt enjoy the variety of content that's on offer here. In at number 7 is Demio, a turn-based tabletop RPG dungeon crawler that can be played solo or with up to 4 players cooperatively. In this game, players can embark on one of 5 quests, each with their own unique environments, monsters, and epic boss battles. It has a nice mix of strategy and luck, along with randomized levels, meaning that no 2 runs will be the same. With a range of 7 different characters to choose from, everyone will be able to find a character to fit their own personal playstyle, whether that be with melee combat, magic, ranged combat, or stealth. It's an awesome game to team up with your friends and play through together, and the great thing is, it's cross-play. And this means that you can play cooperatively with friends who own the game on other platforms, such as the Quest 2 or Steam for example. As Demio is best played seated, it's super comfortable to play, but just bear in mind that some of these adventures can take a few hours to complete, so make sure you have some snacks and refreshments nearby. If, like me, you're a big fan of XCOM-style turn-based strategy games, you'll love this one. And as a bonus, if you buy the game for the PSVR 2, you'll also be able to play it outside of VR on a TV just using the DualSense. Next up is a real hidden gem in my opinion, and that's The Last Clockwinder. The premise of this game is quite unique in that you have to solve increasingly challenging puzzles by recording your actions and having them acted out in endless loops by robotic clones. The puzzles all revolve around the planting, harvesting, combining, and storing of fruits. And initially this will take a bit of trial and error to get used to, but once you've got the hang of it and you have an army of clones working in unison, it's immensely satisfying. There's a decent story here too, with audio recordings explaining the mystery around this ancient clock tower and the importance of getting it back up and running with your clone army. There's a couple of comfort options with this one, so you can choose between teleportation or smooth locomotion, depending on your own comfort level. Clocking in at around 4 to 5 hours to finish is the perfect game to play over a lazy weekend. If you enjoy testing your grey matter with puzzle games in VR, I highly recommend checking this one out. Reaching the midway point here, we have Pistol Whip. This game combines John Wick-style shooting with a thumping soundtrack, which rewards you with more points if you take out enemies in time with the music. Pistol Whip might look intense, but it's actually really comfortable to play due to the consistent movement throughout the levels, making it an ideal step for newcomers looking for something a bit more action-packed to play. There's 20 standalone tracks and 2 campaigns featuring 5 tracks each, alongside modifiers and contracts, so there's plenty of content here to play through. Another bonus is that Pistol Whip can be played using just a single controller, with only 3 actions: shooting with the trigger, reloading by swinging the controller down, and of course physically pistol whipping enemies that get too close. Now, I've played this game on every VR platform available, and I have to say the PSVR 2 version is the definitive version of this game due to the excellent use of adaptive triggers, which adds tension to each trigger pull, and the headset haptics, which adds rumble to each time an enemy bullet narrowly misses your head. This one is definitely worth checking out if you're new to PSVR 2. Moving on, if you're looking for something a bit more chill to play, look no further than Kayak VR Mirage. This game serves as an excellent graphical showcase for the PS5 and PSVR 2, showing off some stunning environments that you can take your time to explore in your very own virtual kayak. The game has 4 unique locations, each with different times of day, weather conditions, and wildlife. You can take part in racing through these levels to rank on the online leaderboards, but personally, I just like to kick back and enjoy the beautiful scenery. It's honestly just so relaxing. If you want to take the immersion one step further, I'd highly recommend getting a broomstick or a pole and zip tying your controllers to the middle for the ultimate virtual kayaking experience. Getting back into the action with my number 3, Pavlov. This is the only multiplayer shooter available in the PSVR 2's launch lineup, but thankfully it's one of the best shooters VR has to offer. It's crazy the amount of content that you get in this package. For example, you get over 65 unique weapons, each with their own realistic weapon handling and reload mechanics. And as a bonus of this PSVR 2 version, each of these weapons has their very own level of tension in their trigger pulls, thanks to the awesome adaptive triggers in the Sense controllers. There's 12 PvP modes, including classics like Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch, Gun Game, TTT, and Prop Hunt. There's also some co-op modes such as Zombies, along with solo practice maps and gun ranges. It's no surprise to me that this game has already become a fan favorite amongst the PSVR 2 community. The only thing that's really missing in this version of Pavlov is community mods, but maybe the devs can figure out a way to add this in the future. So for those of you looking for an intense, action-packed multiplayer shooter, check out Pavlov. Now moving on to my number 2, which is Horizon Call of the Mountain. This is Sony's flagship title for the PSVR 2, and in my opinion, it doesn't disappoint. It shows exactly what's possible with VR with a AAA budget. Starting with the visuals, Call of the Mountain is absolutely stunning and one of the best looking VR games available right now. The landscapes are beautiful and the sense of scale is really something to behold. From craning your neck back to taking the sheer size of a tall neck, to feeling a tremendous sense of vertigo when dangling from dangerously high structures, it all just comes together really nicely. The only downside when it comes to the visual department is that you do get a ghosting effect when using smooth turning, so I would suggest using snap turning instead. When it comes to the gameplay, some might be disappointed to hear that this is a climbing game at heart. This is something that wasn't really communicated well in the game's many trailers. While there is a sprinkling of arena-based combat when taking on the game's many epic boss fights, and a bit of exploration here and there, you'll mostly find yourself climbing for the majority of the 8-hour story campaign. Now, as a fan of previous VR climbing games such as The Climb, I really enjoyed my time with Horizon, and I've actually been returning to the game regularly since I completed it in pursuit of that sweet platinum trophy. It is a bit on the easy side, but it serves well as a showcase for the PSVR 2 with gorgeous graphics and making great use of the headset's haptics, eye tracking, and the controller's adaptive triggers. In my opinion, it's a must-own title for the system, but if you're unsure if this is the right game for you, there's a free demo you can check out on the PlayStation Store. And finally, my top PSVR 2 launch title is Gran Turismo 7. While I wouldn't say I'm a big VR sim racer, GT7 in VR has completely overtaken my life since the free PSVR 2 update dropped last week. The game can be enjoyed using a DualSense controller, which has some really nice adaptive trigger support, but for the most immersive experience, I'd highly recommend playing with a racing wheel setup. And thankfully, using a wheel and getting into a race in VR is super quick and easy. It really is just plug and play, which definitely can't be said about my experiences trying other VR sim racing games in the past. Other than the split-screen multiplayer mode, the full roster of cars, races, and tracks are all available to play in VR. A new addition to the game with this VR update is the new VR showroom, and it's just so impressive. You can really take your time to walk around and take in the truly insane level of detail that has been put into these virtual cars. Once you've done drooling over these machines, it's time to hit the track, and once you've unlocked some of the top level cars, the sense of speed here is exhilarating and highly addictive. The visuals are top-notch with full mirrors, weather effects, incredible lighting, all whilst keeping a consistent, buttery smooth frame rate. If you're remotely interested in cars and racing, GT7 VR is one PSVR 2 title that you can't miss in my opinion. And as the game is a year old now, you're probably going to be able to find it cheap online or secondhand at your local game store over buying it new digitally. I'll be going into way more detail about this game and my sim racing setup in a dedicated video coming very soon. So that is all from me today. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below. Maybe there's a game on this list that you disagree with, or maybe you've been playing something that you're really enjoying that should have been on this list. I'd love to know what you all think in the comments down below. Leave a cheeky little like if you enjoyed the video, you've maybe found it useful. Make sure you're subscribed for all my future VR content, and as always, I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers.